and here I will talk about independence and total probability. Independent means that if you are performing any kind of random experiment, then if you take any two event or multiple events, then you will talk about dependency between those events, whether occurrence of one affect occurrence of others or not. That kind of things we will see that. So if occurrence of one is not going to affect the occurrence of other, then simply we will say that both event would be independent to each other. But here independency would be in various way. One independence, that would be as usual just independent events, that pure independency, and another would be there conditional, then pairwise, various kind of independent notion of independent event I will introduce it here. And after that I will go directly to discuss about total probability. That means if you are having any experiment, then you will see various scenario. In various scenario, with respect to different scenario, how you can calculate a probability of one event of your interest. So that would be main task of total probability. So those things we will discuss it here. So coming to outline of today's task, I will talk about first independent event, then it would be followed by total probability theorem. It is very important theorem for Bayes rule, okay, or Bayes theorem. And after that I will talk about Bayes rule. What is in detail I will discuss. So Bayes rule, simply it will talk about the relation or association between cause and effect. So what is happening, that you might have some after that random experiment, you will come to know some effect is already occurred. So you will try to find out, you have to find out what are the probability of cause which leads to that effect. So like someone came to know that I'm having cancer, so I will try to find out what are the causes which leads to that cancer. So those kind of inference you will see in Bayes rule. So that is the total outline of today's lecture. So coming to first part of this lecture, independent events. So here I will give a various notion of that. So simplest one would be I'm talking about independent event. So we consider an event where suppose there are two people, each one flipping a coin. So what we observe, that if the one person flip his coin first and tells the outcome, that whether that first person is getting head or tail, he is telling to second person, I got this. Okay, so whether this one is going to affect the outcome of other. Any answer? Anyone would like to comment? If two people are performing uh, tossing tossing a coin, then one person is coming and saying that I got head, then whether that information is going to affect the happening of outcome in the second case or not? No, it won't affect. No, that person is performing experiment with another coin. So here we are having two people and two coin. So if one person is performing like it is not like very a strange situation. It is very ideal situation. Both coin are fair coin. There is no dependency between coins. Both coin are fair coin. Each person is having fair coin. So whatever outcome you will get in the first coin, definitely it is not going to affect the outcome in the second coin that second person is going to flip. So there would be no dependency. That means these would be independent. So that's what this is a simple example I have. Just you can visualize yourself. You and your friend both are tossing flipping a coin. Both are having one coin, and both are flipping, and you flipped your coin and you got head, and you are saying that to your friend that I got head. Then whether that happening, that outcome is going to affect the outcome of the friend's toss, definitely it will not affect, because your friend is tossing with another coin. So he will toss, either he will get head or tail, again 50-50 chance for both head or tail. So your outcome is not going to affect the outcome of your friend's coin toss. So that's way whatever outcome you will get in your toss, that will be totally independent of whatever outcome that your friend will get in his toss. So that is the things of this dependency. So there is no clear dependency, so independent, simply we will say that independent. So I will carry forward. If the one person flip his coin first and test the outcome, should that change our degree of confidence in the outcome of other coin? Simply answer would be no, as they are flipping their coin independently. There is no dependency. There is no dependency between flipping the coin. Like there is no such kind of information or statement that if you first person is tossing a coin, and if he is saying that if I get head, then you don't need to toss. So such information is not here. So that was it. So just you have to look into the problem, you have to look into the situation, what situation is there. So unless further information is not there, then simply you can say that these two outcome related with one coin and outcome related with another coin, both would be definitely independent. There would be no dependency. So simply that's why I am saying that answer would be no, as they are flipping their coin independently, and knowing one of the outcome cannot affect the other. Did you get the meaning of independency? Okay, fine. So I will go forward. So understanding must be clear. Okay, so we are going further to define the notion of independency. So if we consider uh, if we condition on the outcome of one of the event, that if we condition on the outcome of one of event that doesn't change the probability of the other event, then simply we will say that these two events are independent to each other. Okay, so simply if you are taking uh, any two event and you are putting condition over one of the event, and that condition is not going to change the probability of the other event, then simply we can say that these two events are independent to each other, and vice versa. In the similar way, you will see that later. You will, if one is not going to affect the occurrence of other, then occurrence of the other will also not affect the occurrence of first one. So that scenario is coming, and that is the notion of independency, basic notion of independency. Okay, and mathematically how we can translate this thing? So mathematically we can translate the notion of independent like this way. Suppose we are having two events A and B, and these two would be independent if happening of A, that we have to find. Suppose among these two events we observe B first. So yeah, if you are observing B first, and we afterward we try to find probability of A, that means we try to find, we have already observed B, that means we are, our new sample space happens to be B, that means B is the partial information. Based on that we try to calculate probability of A, and after calculation we see that that conditional probability is equal to the prior probability of A. So that means happening of B first is not going to affect the happening of A. So that's why we can say that A and B are independent to each other. So this is the notion. So if you someone is saying no, I will I want to go in your way, so that person will say that okay, let me observe A first. So that person is observing A first, after that trying to find the probability of B. That means he is trying to, for that person A would be new sample space, because A, that person is already observed by that person. That's why that person will calculate probability of B given A, and if he or she is trying to find probability of B given A, that means this probability, and after that probability is same equal to probability of prior probability of B, then that person again will say that happening of A first is not going to affect the happening of B. That's why B and A both are independent to each other. In total, you had already seen the multiplication rule. So in multiplication rule, we had seen that if A and B are two event, then how we find the joint occurrence of those two event. So joint, we had already seen that order is very much essential in case of calculating multiplication rule. So suppose someone is observing A first. So that he will, that means observing A first, that means he know about the probability of A. Afterward he try to observe B, that means based on A, he try to find probability of B. So in that way he is calculating probability of B given A, conditional probability. This was the rule of multiplication rule. It is just one kind of rephrase, restatement of conditional definition of conditional probability. So now another person is coming, I would like to observe B first. So if that person is observing B first, then after that person will try to calculate probability of A given B, that means this conditional probability. So in that process, what we do, in order to calculate probability of this joint probability of A and B, uh, this one is the first approach, this one is the second approach. In the both approach we perform the same event, that means same joint event A and B. That's why these two probabilities are equal to each other, and it is giving joint probability of A intersection A and B, that means A intersection B. So that was the approach of multiplication rule. Now but we came to know that here, suppose some information is passes to you that occurrence of A is not going to affect the occurrence of B. In that perspective we will see that probability of B given A, it would be simply probability of B, it becomes probability of B. Okay, if there is a notion of independency, then this conditional probability becomes probability of B just, and simply someone is observing B first, and we know that we came to know that occurrence of B is not going to affect the occurrence of A. So this becomes what? Probability of this conditional probability A given B, it just become probability of A. In that perspective, we see that joint probability of A and B is what? It is just product of the individual probability. That means in the case of independency, we observe that joint probability would be given by product of individual probability, individual probability of individual event. So this also you can say that it is one way of notion of or definition of independent events. So this one is also definition of independent event. So I have given here three definition of independent events. If you are taking two events A and B, when you will call to those two event independent, mathematically if you want to see, then compute the conditional probability and try to see whether it is equal to the prior probability. Then if it is equal, then you simply you will claim that these two events happen to be independent to each other. Otherwise what you do, try to find joint probability of that. Don't worry about this probability, it would be definitely associated with problem. Whatever problem you are having, you can able to find joint probability and see the individual probability and multiply these two individual probability. If the multiplication of individual probability happens to be equal to joint probability, then again you can claim that A and B both happens to be independent to each other. So these three notion of uh, independent event, you can use any of three, depends upon what kind of problem you are having and what approach you are going to apply. So it would be, so I have given three definition of independent event. So it is just case of only two events. Can we generalize it to for n number of events? Yes, we can generalize. So if you are generalizing, then things should be like this way. Suppose we are having n number of events and we will call it independent. So what will happen? So again, always we go for binary approach. That means binary approach, that means it is just related with what we call approach of outcome, that occurrence of one is just going to affect kills the occurrence of others. So if you are just observing a1, this event a1, then forget about others. Okay, so put conditions over, if you condition over rest n minus 1 events. So try to find conditional probability of ai condition when you have already seen rest n minus 1 events. When you have already observed rest 1 minus n minus 1 events, and if you try to find probability in that perspective, then if this conditional probability is equal to the prior probability, then you can say that event ai is independent of other events, other n minus 1 event in event. And remember that this must hold for every I, which is not equal to j1 j2 j3, all these for every or for each event, this must be true. Okay, so this has been generalized in the case of n events. So this is the definition of independent events. Okay, now I will take few example to make things more clear. So I will talk about here. Remember that if you are taking more than two events, then there would be various notion of independent events. One would be pairwise and another would be independent, simply independent event. The independent we have to talk with all the events involved there. So that's why you have to be very careful. There is a difference between pairwise independent notion and independent notion. Independent is very general notion. Pairwise it becomes more strong kind of concept. So here I am taking one example based on that pairwise and independent and independent. Okay, so consider an experiment where we perform tossing of two independent coins. So I have already taken independent event. That means there is no dependency between among the coins. Both coins are fair and verified. Okay, so we are performing toss of two coins, two fair coins. Okay, in which all four possible outcomes are equally likely. So that means what assumption we have taken? Equally likely. So if you are taking assumption equally likely, then if you what are the outcome would be four in this sample space: head head, head tail, tail head, and tail tail. So these are the outcome of this experiment. So that means there are only four outcomes. Okay, and each one is having probability 1 by 4 because of equally likely assumption. Okay, so that you got from the probabilistic modeling approach. Okay, now we are going to define our event of interest. First event we are defining, we are saying that first toss is a head. Then where in which outcome we observe first uh, toss head. So for first first toss head, so in this outcome first toss is head, in this outcome first toss is head, only in these two. Here we don't observe first toss is tail, here also first toss is tail. So in h1 event, what are the outcomes? H1 event contain outcome HH and HT. Similarly, we are taking another event H2, that is talking about second toss is a head. Then where we observe second toss head, we observe second toss is head here and here. So that's way H2 will include two outcome of the sample space. This one tail head and head head. So these are the member of H2. Now we are defining one more event, that one is saying that the two tosses have different results. That means if one toss is having head, then other will have tail. So so what are the outcome in this event? So definitely so results are different, so it would be h head tail and tail head. So these are the outcome in this event. Okay, now we have to see that whether uh, uh, can we see dependency between, if you try to look pairwise independency, then easily we can see that h1 and h2 both are independent to each other. You can calculate, you can establish how. First we will see that h1 and h2 both are independent. Similarly we can see that h1 and d are independent to each other. Similarly we can see that h2 and d are independent to each other. That means first we will see that this h1 h2 and d, all these are pairwise independent. How? You mathematically you can see that, otherwise you can visualize by yourself here. Just that one, that visualization would be intuitive approach. So if you mathematically try to see, then find the conditional probability of h1 given d, suppose given d. So that means I had already mentioned that don't try to always apply the formula. What you do, see how many outcome of h1 is there in d, then only you will observe this outcome is in d. This is the outcome of h1 which is in d. That's way probability of h1 given d, how many times outcome of h1 in d? Only one times out of total. How many outcome d is having? 2. So that's way conditional probability of h1 given d, it would be 1 by 2. Similarly, and if you just try to calculate probability of h1, then h1 include two outcome of the total sample space, and how many outcome are there in the sample space? 4. So that's why probability of h1 would be 2 by 4. If you simplify it, it would be just half, 1 by 2. So what we observe? We observe that conditional probability of H1 given D is equal to probability of H1. So what does it say? That means happening of D first is not going to affect the probability of happening of H1. So simply we can say that H1 and D both are independent to each other. Okay, similarly just try to find probability of H2 given D. How many outcome of H2 is happening within D? So we can observe that TH is happening within D out of two outcome. So simply out of two outcome of D, so we can say that conditional probability of H2 given D, it is 1 by 2. And similarly if you try to find the probability of H2, so how many outcome of the sample space of how many outcome of the sample space of this sample space is happening in H2? Only two outcome. So that's where probability of H2 would be 2 by 4. Okay, so always try to calculate things in intuitive way. So 1 by 2. So you can observe here probability of H2 given D is equal to probability of H2. That means happening of D is not happening of D first is not going to affect the happening of H2. So that's way we can say that H2 and D both are independent to each other. Now we try to look for first, suppose here we will try to see that H1 is happening first. Now we try to find probability of D happen given H1. So how many outcome of D is happening in H1? We can observe that only this outcome is happening in H1. This outcome of D is happening in H1. That's way that one outcome of D is happening in H1. And how many outcomes are there in H1? 2. That's why probability of D given H1 it would be 1 by 2. And if you try to find probability of D itself with respect to sample space, that means prior probability, that means two outcome of the sample space is in D. That out of how many sample outcome are there in sample space? 4. So probability of D would be 2 by 4. That means 1 by 2. So you came to see that probability of D given H1 is just equal to probability of D. That's why we can say that D and H1 both are independent to each other. Likewise also we can see that D and H2 are independent to each other. Okay, so we have already seen that H1, H2 and D, all three events in this experiment are mutually independent. Is it clear to everyone? I hope that it might be clear to everyone if I'm not getting any doubt. Okay, I'm going forward. So if you try to see the independency between these three events, so you have to find first joint probability. Find the joint probability. So how you can find the joint probability? Try to look for joint event among these three events. Do you see any joint event among these three events? Any answer? Do you find any joint event, joint outcome between H1, H2 and D? Anyone would like to answer? Arjun, what is the joint outcome among H1, H2 and D? Arjun Sagar, are you listening me? Okay, Kavya, just try to answer it. I may ask answer question from any of you. I told that there is a 5% mark from class participation. So everyone must be uh, involved in this class. Whatever class I will take. So you need to answer if I'm asking any question. Either positive way or negative way. If you know, just try to answer it positively. If you don't know, no worry. But definitely both approach would be what counted as your participation. Who would like to answer? What is the joint outcome among these three events? Anyone would like to say that? Yeah, nice. No, that means null set. So what is the probability of null set? 0. So that's why probability of joint occurrence of H1, H2, D is 0. Now we have already seen that probability of H1, probability of H2 and probability of D. All those three probabilities are non-zero. If you multiply, you are getting 1 by 8. So we observe that this joint probability is not equal to the probability of individual product of individual events. So that's why we can say that H1, H2 and D all are not independent. It is not satisfying the criteria of being independent. Okay, that's way we can say that H1, H2, H3 are pairwise independent but not independent. These are not independent. So this one is one example. Okay, where you can see the difference between pairwise independence and non-independent, a dependent event. So these H1, H2, H3 in together, if you take, then these are dependent events. But if you go pairwise, these are independent. Pairwise independent. There is a pairwise independency, but in total there is no independency. These are dependent event. So that is the meaning of the difference between pairwise independent and independent. Now I will talk about one more term, that conditional independent. So it is also it is talking about if you are having two event, two event A and B, and you have already observed one event C. That means you have already observed. Then with respect to C, you try to find the dependency between A and B, whether A and B are independent of each other with respect to C or not. So this independency we will call it conditional independent or independence. So we will call A and B are conditionally independent if probability of A, joint probability of A and B given C is equal to product of uh, conditional probability of A with respect to C and conditional probability of B with respect to C. If you observe this kind of situation, that means A and B both are not going to affect each other. C is going to affect, but A and B are not going to affect mutually to each other. So from that perspective, we will say that A and B are conditionally independent due to this C. Okay, so here again I have taken the same example. So we are taking an experiment where we perform tossing two fair coin, in which all equally likely assumption we are taking in order to calculate probability. So we are defining first event H1. It is talking about first toss is a head. We are talking defining another event S2. That one is talking about second toss is a head, and we are defining third event, that one is saying that two tosses having different result. And we know that H1 and H2, these are unconditionally independent. So that means if you take H1 and H2 in together, then these are independent to each other. Okay, pairwise independent. So we in last example we had already seen that. Now we will talk about conditional independency or dependency. So if you try to find uh, we try to introduce conditioning over joint occurrence of H1 and H2. So if you try to find joint occurrence of H1 and H2 when D, that means how many how many outcome of joint occurrence of H1 and H2 you observe in D? No. In last case we had already seen that. So no joint outcome of H1 and H2 is happening in D. That's why probability of H1 intersection H2 given D is equal to 0. But if we try to find product, this individual product, so what we observe, this quantity is non-zero. So that's why here we observe that if you introduce conditioning over H1 and H2 by D, H2 by D, then we see that it is not satisfying this equality condition. So we can simply say that H1 and H2 are not conditionally independent. They are conditionally dependent by D. Conditionally dependent by D. That is the approach. Okay, so simply we can say that H1 and H2 are not conditionally independent. Now we will talk about total probability. That is the main aim of today's lecture. So total probability is talking about how to calculate probability of your interest based on various situations. So before going to discuss about total probability, I will give a glimpse of a partition of a sample space. So if you are having a sample space, you can introduce partition over the sample space by introducing some kind of scenario, some kind of event. So so that what would you partition? So partition I will talk about. So in math 1, you might have already seen the partition of what we call it interval. So partition of interval is coming like this way, sub interval wise. So if you are taking any interval a b, then we introduce sub interval like this way, and this sub interval are coming in such a way we don't see any common entries between this sub interval except the terminal point, this boundary point. Okay, this boundary point like this way. Okay, this sub interval, so we don't have to include this boundary. So if you try to say, then this one is totally disjoint with respect to this one is totally disjoint with respect to this one is totally disjoint with respect to this, like mutual disjoint we can observe, mutual exclusiveness we can observe. But if you calculate for the length of this sum interval, then and sum it up, it will give the length of the total one. So it is one kind of partition you had already seen in Riemann integration, that partition of a interval. So here we will talk about partition of a sample space. Sample space is now a set. So we'll talk about partition like this way. This partition is very different kind of partition. That partition, but approach is similar. That means we are partition a sample space in term of subset. So we are defining subset. So various subset are coming. This subset is b1, this one is b2, b2, b3, b4, b5. You can enter it like b3, b4, b5. Okay, and this is your actually sample space. So you can easily observe that property that b1 is mutually exclusive with respect to b2, b2 is also mutually exclusive with respect to b3, b3 is also mutually exclusive with respect to b5, and all these mutually exclusiveness we observe here. And if you take union of all these three, then union will give your complete sample space. So this is, so that's why we can say that also apart from that, each event is having some, each partition is having some contribution within mm, this sample space. That means we are not taking a member of partition a as a null set. So each one is having positive probability. b1 is having positive because this much area is taken by b1. So b1, definitely b1 will contain some outcome of this sample space. So each bij is containing some outcome, definitely at least one outcome of the sample space. That's way we can say that it forms a this b1, b2, b3, b4, b5, b5 in together. These are forming a same partition of the sample space sigma. So it is one way, just it has been generalized from your partition of interval. So in together you can say that, so a sample space can have various partition, depends upon, that means each partition is defining one scenario. So a sample space can have various scenario. So you can have introduce various partitions. Someone is coming now and saying that I will define partition in different way. It is fine, it depends upon your approach. You can go for different kind of partition. So the problem will make you to understand what kind of partition you want to introduce. So problem from the problem, better understanding a problem, you will come to know what kind of partition you want to introduce. So here more general way I would like to say that a set of events, or simply you can say that situation or event, both are similar. Okay, so if you introduce several different situation, then that will give different outcome, and due to that you will come across with different event. So that's why situation event both happens to be same, synonymous to each other. So a set of events b1, b2 up to bn is said to represent a partition of a sample space omega if, what are the criteria? First, each, if you take any two member of the partition, must be mutually exclusive. That means there would be no common element between any two member of the partition. So one member is bi, another member is bj, there is no common outcome between these two. So that means mutually exclusive. first property. Second property, it is saying that if you take union of all those member of partition, then it will give back your complete sample space. What does it mean? It is talking about all these member of partition, this partition, it is making a collectively exhaustiveness. That means if you take union, that means you are not in this partition, every outcome can be engaged in some of the member. So it is not like that one member of the sample space we can't fix with any of these member of the partition. So some member of the partition definitely it will contain the outcome of that sample space. So that is the meaning of collectively exhaustiveness. And third one is talking about if you take any member of the sample space, definitely that member will contain at least one outcome of the sample space, one outcome of the sample space. It is saying that what does it mean? It say that your that event any of bi is non-empty, non-emptiness. So all these three properties are important ingredient of what we call it partitioning of a sample space. So here if b1 b2 b3 up to bn, it is a partition of a sample space. These are forming a partition of sample space like this way, what I had already explained. Then for any event we can introduce a partition of the event as well based on that. So suppose one event a is happening in this sample space. So this one is the common intersection of a1 with b1. This one is the intersection of this small region is intersection of a1 with b2. This small region is intersection of a with b3, and this one is the intersection of a with b4, and this is the intersection of a with b3. So this within the event a, this event a, we observe partition of a thanks to partition of sample space, thanks to partition of some sample space. So we can say that how we observe partition of a, which are the member of partition of a. Member of partition of a are what? A intersection b1, and b1 is the member of partition of sample space. Another member would be a intersection b2. Likewise a intersection of bn. So this one is, if you are having a partition of sample space, then and after that some event is happening, then you can also come to know that partition of sample space is also introducing a partition of the corresponding event as well, and you can observe all these properties. So all these are set theoretic result, you can easily see that. So within a you can observe mutually exclusiveness. That means there is no common, you can observe in this area wise, this is the area, this is the region of a intersection b1. You don't observe any common element of a intersection b2, and likewise you don't observe any common element of a intersection b3 here. So here don't so these are the partition of a, these are the partition of a, these are the partition of a. Okay, so again we observe partition of a. Now if someone is asking that we have to find the probability of a, so how we can find the probability of a? So with the help of that this situation you are introducing, this situation or this partition you are introducing, that's why you know the probability of bi's, and hence some age occurrence, then also you can calculate probability of a given bi. That in that situation you can calculate. So in order to calculate probability of a, so you have to introduce the formula of total probability of a. That means probability of a would be what? Probability of a, like here in partition you had already seen that due to mutually exclusiveness and mutually exhaustiveness, you can see that probability of sample space, you can write it like this way. It is equal to probability of uh, b1, and b1 is what? It is exclusive with respect to b2 b3 and rest of all bi's. So you can just sum it up and b2 like this way, and you can go like this way. So sample space probability you can calculate by summing up the probability of individual member of the partition, and last member is Bn. And what is the probability of sample space? Probability of sample space is always equal to 1. So here, because that one is talking about totality or normalizing condition, but if you try to find probability of A, what would be this? Probability of A would be equal to probability of in term of partition, and A is not covering all the outcome of sigma, sorry, this sample space. So simply it would be a non-zero number. So probability of A would be a probability of A intersection B1 plus probability of A intersection B2 plus probability of A intersection B3, likewise probability of A intersection Bn. So you can go like so. So this formula we are calling it total probability. That means thanks to partition of sample space, we introduce the partition of the event A, and from there we can calculate probability of A by seeing the partition, individual partition of A. So this is the law of total probability. Okay, so total probability is coming here like this way. So we can say here probability of A is what it is. You can say that these are actually individual member of the partition of A. So probability of A would be just summation of the probability of this partition of A. And if you where summation vary from 1 to n, and we know that how we can calculate this probability, joint probability of A with bk. So we have here smartly we have to apply the uh, multiplication rule. How we can apply? Because bi's are scenario introduced by problem, or these are coming, this scenario event are coming from our side for simplicity of problem. That means we are observing bi's first. So that means we try to calculate probability of bi's first or bk first. Afterward we try to observe A, how much of A outcome A is happening within bk. So that's why we are calculating probability of conditional probability of A given bk. So that this is the scenario. So we just apply the multiplication rule, because we know the bk is happening first, after that A is happening. So that's why we are doing like this way. So this probability of A is what? Probability of summation of this probability. Okay, summation of this probability. So this probability, and this approach of calculating probability of A, we are calling it law of total probability or total probability theorem, or simply total probability. So intuitively we can say that we are partitioning the sample space into a number of scenarios bi. Afterward, then the probability of the probability that A occurs is a weighted average of the conditional probability of A given bi, and what is the weight? Weight is given by the probability of the corresponding scenario. So this is the total probability approach. So in this case, so to compute the probability of various events for which the conditional probability bi are known, and it is easy to derive, there is no issue. You can easily calculate all these. Okay, it is already 45 minutes, so I will talk about few example of total probability in next class, and further Bayes theorem I will talk in detail. Regarding attendance, go and mark your attendance